Karen, hey, this is Mike White, and I know you said you didn't need a video, but I'm going to make it anyway, just in case that it might help, because my goal is to get everybody as educated as possible, because it makes my job easier. You know, I have a motive for that, besides just being nice. So the first thing we're going to do is just jump in here and scale this Kricket logo up. So you can click right once on the font size, and then you can actually use the left, I'm just using the right arrow key to have it, to kind of do fine adjustments. And you can go right to the edge. I mean, if I can squeeze one more out of this, I'll do it, Looks like I can do another. I'm just using the right arrow key on that slider bar. And then I'm just looking to make sure it's not cut off. And it's not. So I think that's good. And then you should be, can you duplicate text? Yes, you can. Lovely. All right, so we'll just duplicate it. And we'll duplicate it and duplicate it. So now, you've got 4 crickets, and there's, we can see there's, about an inch in between them, I think. So I think that they won't be too hard. No, ½ inch. Won't be too hard to cut out. I might just slide these down. So we'll just go down with this a little bit and just give you a little more room to work in between them. I don't want it to be too tight to try to cut. I'm sure you know how to use a pair of scissors though, so I don't think it'll be a problem. All right, and so that's the 4x4. We got that all fixed up, and then we'll do this. We'll do the 10x10. And so we'll just go ahead and size this up, because we want to fill the stage. I mean, I want you to get the biggest design and not have the design look small on the shirt. So I'll just make this as big as I possibly can. And so I'm just using that right arrow trick, and we'll just put it up here at the top. And see, this is where, what you want is what becomes more important. Do you want the Kricket ratio? Do you want the Krafty Kricket bigger? Or do you want the Kricket itself bigger? So let me just save this, at this stage, and then we'll work on the Kricket. So I'm just going to download the Kricket image. We'll save that as, and I'm just going to call it the Krafty Kricket. This is my working directory. You can see all the projects I've been working on. And we're going to open this up with Photoshop. So there's a few issues with this image. I mean, it's small, and you can tell that it's small. I'm opening it up in Windows Photo Viewer here, and I'm at 100%. The scale, the zoom level is so important. And so I'm looking at that at 100%, and it looks big on the screen, but it's not. So let's look at the properties of the image. So you can see, if you go to the details, it's 390 pixels by 719 pixels. So it's 300 pixels per inch. You want 300 pixels. So if you've got an image that you want to print 2 inches wide, then it needs 600 pixels. If you want it to be 10 inches wide, then it needs to be 3,000 pixels. So this image is suitable to be printed about 1 3/4 inches wide and about almost 1/2 inches tall. And I think you're going to want it a lot bigger, So what I'm going to do is upscale it for you. Now, you don't want to just stretch pixels. So what I mean by that is, like, when you open something like this up, if you open it up in like Adobe Photoshop, you don't just go up here and say image size, whatever it is, and so you turn on resample here, set this to pixels. You can't just sit here and put, more pixels on this. You really need to go back to the original and see if they have it in a larger size, without scaling it. We don't want to scale it. And I'll show you why. Like, if we scaled this, it's just going to take the same pixels and blow them up. And, it makes these like things jaggy. So I'm looking at this at 100%. And I know that seems like really big the way I just scaled that, but when you're preparing things for printing, I mean, this is only suitable for printing about what, it's 300 pixels per inch. It's 2765. So, I mean, what is that? 8 and some change. 9 inches. No, it's 9 inches that this would be in height. So, that's something to keep in mind. And there's a lot of different ways that we could go about fixing an image like this. The easiest and fastest way is for me to use this thing called Gigapixel AI. So this is a program. It's $99. I'm not recommending people to buy it unless they really needed it and they want to do it all the time. But what it's done, and you can see how it just scaled that. It's actually scaled it and it's thought about it. And I did this step first before I went to and by thinking about it, I mean, it thought about the lines. And, computers don't think. It's an algorithm. But the algorithm scanned what was there and redrew it. And that's vastly different than scaling things. So this program has actually just fixed that up. And sometimes it works. It's hit or miss. This time it worked great. I have other techniques if that doesn't work, but this time that worked really wonderfully. And you notice I didn't remove the background yet. And the reason I didn't do that is because it's going to be easier to remove the background with the larger image. It'll make a cleaner selection because we have a larger image here. So this is at 25%, and we've got it all the way to 100% now. Looking, I think quite good. Gigapixel is a pretty amazing program when it works well. So we just want to select all the areas that we don't want to be transparent, that we want to be transparent. And then, it's usually a good idea to make a duplicate layer. And I'll even convert one of these to a smart object. And that just preserves the pixels and keeps things where they stay locked away. And you can't even edit them, and it's nice because if you're scaling things up and down, you won't lose quality of that. And then we'll just hit delete on this, and that should give us a good edge. Before you know whether it's a good edge or not, you need to put a new layer and put it underneath and paint black on it, and then you'll see if there's like a little line. And It's real important to me because customers get upset and they're like, hey, there's this little line around the outside and you can see it. You can see that little line that's right there and it shows up for them and they're like, hey, your printer didn't do a good job. But really it's the artwork, So what I'm going to do to fix that is we'll just come in slightly. So we can select the layer by holding Control and just clicking on the layer. This is Photoshop, and I'm sure you've heard of it and may be familiar with it. Definitely the best program for doing this kind of work. So we're just going to go to Select, Modify, and then I'm going to contract it. And I'm going to just contract it by 2 pixels and visually look and see what it did. And it looks like it went in just right. And then I'm just going to hit Control-Shift-I to do the inverse. So, it had selected the Kricket, and now I've selected the outside the Kricket. And then I'm going to make sure I'm on the right layer and hit Delete. And so that should have gotten rid of our little outlines. And we haven't lost our antenna. That's good. All right. So we've got a nice looking outline there, and then we'll just do another layer, and we'll just look at it on white. If you look at it on black and white, they're the most unforgiving backgrounds there are. And now, I can tell that I've got a good crop. I've got a good chop on that, and now it's transparent. So about the stroke, we'll take this and we'll just do blending options and we'll put a stroke on him and we'll choose whites. And the thing about stroke is you just want to make it look intentional. I mean, sometimes you want it to be subtle, but it looks good usually when it just looks intentional, And I'm just going to scale him down just slightly. So I made it a little thicker than we probably will end up with. So I'm able to hold, I hit Control T to start scaling in Photoshop, and then I held Shift and Alt to make it proportional and not disturb the aspect ratio. But this gives us an idea. Yeah, that's probably too much stroke. But you don't want too little because it'll just look like, like an accident, like you didn't cut it out. That looks nice to me. I think that'll pop it off any background and make this a very versatile image. So I recommend this level of stroke. And this is all personal preference. So it's all your taste level and what you want. And everybody's is different, right? So now that we're done with that, I'm just going to hit Image Trim based on transparent pixels. And I want to make sure that it doesn't cut off the stroke at the top. So now it's all trimmed up, and we just have just the Kricket by itself. And then we're going to export, and you just want to choose export as PNG. I mean, there's many ways to get something out of Photoshop, but this is quick export as PNG is the best way. I'm going to call it transparent and stroke and save it. Okay. And then we're going to go back to the project. So you can literally, we can just turn this one off. If you can also swap, so you can hit swap image, and it'll just replace the image right where it was. In this case, I want to keep your original on there because I'm messing with your project and not my own. So I'm just going to add the Kricket on, and then I'm going to turn off the other layer. And then we're going to size him, so he's way too big. And this application is pretty smart. When you put something on the stage, it'll actually put it on there at the size that it will look good for printing. Assuming that the image is clean and it's got all the other things going on, that it looks nice. So now this is about 4 inches wide and 7.9 inches tall. And I think we can get more out of it. I don't want to crowd the letters, but we should be able to get a little more out of it. So we'll just make it. Yep. And if we want to see that stroke, you can turn on a black background, and you'll be able to see what you're getting there a little bit differently. Turn on a white. There's no way to go back to transparent. It's not going to print, so it doesn't matter. So now I just want to make sure he's centered. He's perfectly centered, and we'll save him. And it's uploading that image, and then there's our proof. That's what we're going to get out of the other side. So literally these bounds of the project, that is the, these edges. I mean, these edges, you can go right to them. You don't need to leave a margin. We take care, we have a margin built into this code. And so there's always a 1/2 inch margin that we use. So you can go right to the very edge and see exactly what you're going to get in your final print. And that's just something that you need to know. And we'll put him all the way up here at the top because we want to leave a lot of room for the Kricket. And we'll just repeat the same steps. We'll add him on there. He's coming. My computer's lagging because I've got so many tabs. I said that, and then I'd actually, the application had screwed up, so I had to just kind of refresh the page. All right, and so now I saved the project first, so at least I was smart enough to do that. So, if you want the full width of this 12 by 17, we can go there now that we got this big scaled up version. I'm not going to go all the way. I think that's pretty good. Just kind of making a judgment there, and then trying to put it about the same distance as the other one. Boop, boop. And then one last little tip that I'll show you. Let's see, it says that it's perfect as far as the pixel size. That's important for you to look down here and see, if your image is good. And then, when I save the project, I'm just going to show you real quick. You can actually just download this and look at the image that you've created and just see what you're going to get. So, all right, now I'm just rambling. I'm going to stop this and call you back.